Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to holiday content. So I'm pretty sure that by the time you are watching this, it is going to be December. So I hope that you are ready for a month's worth of holiday projects, and I'm hoping to get at least a couple, maybe 2 or 3 in there for you, but we're starting off with a big one. So I was not intending to do this project, but then some other local cosplayers mentioned that they were looking for people to join their group at Emerald City Comicon of making holiday Barbie dresses. And I was intrigued by the idea. I mean, holiday Barbie dresses are fun and sparkly and all of that sort of stuff, and I love group costumes. But I told myself, no, I don't have time for this. I shouldn't go buy this fabric that I don't have in my stash. This would just be a silly idea. I do not have time for this. And yet somehow I said yes. So I'm making a holiday Barbie dress. Specifically, I decided to choose 1994. And I chose that because I kind of went through all of the holiday Barbie dresses that were not already spoken for by the other members of the group and looked at what can I conceivably make in about a week and a half, since that is the amount of time that I have before Emerald City Comicon. Yeah, so I wound up coming up with 3 options of ones that I could make in that amount of time. Also, specifically that were kind of the older holiday Barbies. I think they just got kind of boring once it reached like the mid-2000s or so. The hair got smaller, the dresses turned into prom dresses. It was just like, meh, whatever. But when you look at like the late 80s, because it started in 1988, the year that I was born, and when you look at the 80s through the 90s and the very, very early 2000s, those were way more fun. So I decided that if I'm gonna go ahead and make a holiday Barbie dress, I want to go like all out holiday Barbie extreme. And 1994 really fit that bill and was still something that I could conceivably make in about a week and a half. I hope. I guess we'll find out during the course of this and the next video. So the first thing that I did before I even committed to 1994 was I went to Joann's to try and see if I could find the fabrics that I would need for this project. And I didn't look for trimming yet, so I have not yet purchased the baubles and stuff on the front. By the way, 1994 Barbie looks like this, just so you get an idea of what I'm making. And I have actually ordered the doll, but it has not yet arrived, so I will have an even better reference once that arrives. So I did find, though, at Joann's, I found gold lame, and I bought the entire bolt of gold lame. Now, lame is one of the worst fabrics out there. I mean, there's a lot of contenders for that, but lame is awful. And also, it's actually sheer. I don't know if you can tell that on this video, but it is actually sheer. So I needed something that I could use for structure with this lame. So I also got just white poly taffeta. I really wanted to get gold poly taffeta, but apparently gold is out of season, so they don't have that. So then I was thinking, okay, maybe a yellowish. No, they didn't have enough of that. And then I was thinking, okay, ivory. No, they didn't have enough of that either. So it wound up being white poly taffeta, and I am going to flatline all of the skirt pieces to that white poly taffeta. Potentially for the sleeves as well. I'm not yet positive about the sleeves. I might choose cotton organdy for that instead. And then for the bodice, I'm going to flatline it to something cotton because I don't hate myself that much to make a white poly taffeta lined gold lame bodice. Yeah, I know, it just sounds awful just saying it. So this is the fabric for the main part of the dress. Then there's also the underskirt portion in front, which I have since learned by doing some research on eBay and looking for auctions of the used Barbie doll as opposed to one that's new in the box. I found one that actually showed that the underskirt is only the front of the underskirt and then it's just net in the back. And that kind of actually works to what I was going to do anyway because the underskirt fabric was really expensive. So I am only doing the front, but I'm planning to most likely join it to the overskirt. We'll see. Maybe I'll go the net route with that. But the underskirt fabric is this gorgeous sequined and embroidered, like tambour embroidery, I think. mesh fabric or net fabric. And so that is going to be the front, but it is going to be flatlined to the gold lame and also still to the poly taffeta. But I only got about 50 inches of this. I think I got 1.5 yards, so whatever that equals to, I think it's just over 50 inches. And so I have to be really careful about my cutting with this because it was pricey and I did not want to buy that much of it. So I won't have enough to make the full front half of the skirt, but I will have enough to make the entire front portion that shows in the skirt. And then the one thing that is coming from my stash, I hope, assuming that I have enough of it, is going to be this white fur. It's not ideal, like it doesn't have the same plushness as the one that she had, but I looked at Joann's and they had one that was a longer pile fake fur and it looked like garbage. It was just so bad. Like maybe if you're trying to make a really fake looking bearskin rug, it could work, but it was not at all for this Barbie. Like this is closer, but I do wish that I had something longer pile. And I also don't have a lot of this. This is like a little more than 1 yard and then plus a section that is not the full width. So I'm really hoping that I can get the whole thing out of that, but I'm not positive. So I guess we'll see how that goes once I get to the trimming point, which is probably not in this video. So as of the time of filming this video, I am actually leaving for my Disney World vacation tomorrow. But I am hoping that tonight, since I've already gotten everything ready for Disney World, that I can put together the skirt for this project. So yesterday I took what could have been my sewing time and I went through and I patterned out the entire skirt. I am not using any sort of commercial pattern or anything like that for this skirt. I just kind of went off what does her skirt look like, how could I make that in. You're very loud right now. This kitten wanted to show herself. She decided to be really loud and she was very playful right now. Also, I know that a lot of you have been wondering about how she is faring. So this is how she looks right. Aww. She's purring. This is how she looks right now. She is just faring just fine. She has been going outside at this point for the last like 3 or 4 days. She was so glad to get the cone off and get to be able to go outside again, and hopefully she won't bring in any more mice, though we are still trying to trap the one that she brought into the kitchen about 5 weeks ago. Yeah, not happy. Anyway, I am going to put this little lady down and talk to you about patterning now. Okay, can we be quiet now? Can we detach from a sweater? Thank you. Can I put you down? Can I put you down? Okay, how about right here? Thank you, sweetie. Okay, this might not work. So while I pet her head and talk to you about patterning, so what I decided to do with this skirt was that I want it kind of as circular as possible. Behind me, you can see that I have the dress form set up with a bunch of underskirt layers already on it. On this skirt right now, I have my really basic old school hoop skirt way under here. And then I have a petticoat that I made for a Snow White dress that I did several years ago, but it really wasn't great. It was supposed to be like kind of a bridal petticoat, but it was a couple of layers of tulle with a tulle ruffles at the bottom and then poly taffeta over the top, and the taffeta weighed down the tulle and it really didn't do anything. So that is actually on here inside out. I have the taffeta over the hoop skirt and then the tulle layers, and then I have put on my ruffled petticoat that I use for like 1830s, 1840s stuff and 1850 stuff over the top of that. This has not been starched since before Little Women. Really does need to be starched to give it more volume, but I think it will work for this even as is because it is giving me a really nice shape and actually far more structure than this Barbie has, since she just has the backside of her skirt made out of the net, and then her skirt is also a gold fabric that is lined with net, but obviously that doesn't really work in a full scale. So I have all of that understructure. I want my skirt to be very round around. So what I'm doing is with the gold lame, it's 59 inches wide, and I am going to be cutting panels that are 10 inches at the top plus seam allowance, and that they will go down to that 59-inch width. So they'll be very flared out panels. And I'm doing 2 of those that will meet in the center back with a seam in the center back that will join up with the bodice and be the opening of the bodice, because I hate myself and center back bodice openings cause you to hate yourself. I was really tempted, by the way, to make this a Velcro closing bodice, but then I learned that this Barbie is actually old enough that her bodice closes up with snaps instead of with Velcro, so I'm not positive yet what I will be doing for the bodice closure. Snaps are not gonna cut it for an actual human bodice, and I am still tempted to do Velcro, but now it would be anachronistic since they hadn't started doing that yet with these. Anyway, onto the skirt construction. So I'm gonna have those two panels meeting in the back and going to about the side seam. And then I'm going to have two other panels that are straight on the grain in the front where the skirt opens right here. And then we'll flare out to meet the side seam, and they will be about 35 inches wide around the bottom and about 8.5 inches, including the seam allowance, at the top. And the very two back ones will dip into a very slight train because I shouldn't be doing a train at all in the cons, but this Barbie does have a train. When you look at her in the box, the part that is pulled up behind her, that's actually the hem of her skirt. It's the train. So yeah, I'm gonna do a very, very slight one, but not as much as hers actually have. And then for the underskirt, I'm taking that gold sequin fabric that I don't really have a lot of, and I'm basically cutting out a portion that's going to be like this in the middle, and then these portions right here, I'm going to flip them upside down because the pattern is luckily not directional, and I'm going to add those to that middle so that it gets quite wide at the bottom and is a little bit wider at the top. And that one will have just the very, very slightest bit of gathering. I'm hoping that the rest of the skirt will not have any gathering. The one weird bit about this bodice or skirt combo, because it's really a dress, it's a bodice and skirt sewn together. And if you look closely at this picture, you'll notice that the center front panel of her bodice actually is all cut in one from here down to about here. There's no waist seam in the center front, whereas there's a waist seam all the way the rest of the way around. And so this causes that little fur bit down here that's very weird. That is what it is attached to. And then the skirt panels come from here and join up with that at the curve. So it's a very weird construction. I hope that it's gonna be not super unflattering, but it may be very unflattering. But anyway, so that is everything that I worked out yesterday as far as the patterning goes. I also pulled a couple of potential patterns to use for the princess seaming of the bodice, and that though will happen after I get back from Disney. So for tonight, I am hoping to just get all of those skirt panels cut out, flatlined together with the serger and assembled, and of course pockets will have to go in as well. And that is it for tonight. And that way those can all hang out on the dress form and let any of the bias hang out for the week and a half while I am at Disney, and then I will come back afterwards to this. So a lot of today's video is going to be after I get back from Disney. Anyway, I am going to go get to cutting. It is the end of the night and the skirt is very much still in pieces, as in this top layer is not connected to these layers, and there's actually two layers of the lame that aren't even cut out yet. I didn't get these two pieces cut out yet. All of the taffeta layers are cut out. Everything else is serged and flatlined together. These are not going through the serger because of all of the stuff that would kill my serger blade and needle. So these are all cut out and serged, but yeah, nothing is actually sewn together. And I guess I will have to wait until after my Disney trip. I am back from my trip to Disney and back to work on the Barbie. In fact, a couple of days ago now, on Tuesday night, I guess it was, I went and I cut out the last two pieces of lame on the skirt and flatlined those, and then I sewed all of the skirt pieces together, including the pockets, because obviously it has to have pockets. The only part that is not like assembled is that the front panel here, that is not yet attached to the back. And part of that is, the main part of that is because the front of the bodice actually drops down here and attaches to these two front panels to about right here and does this little curve thing over the front. And because of that, I'm not sure 100% how to attach the bottom panel. It may actually be that I wind up making sort of a false back skirt out of some other fabric that will be the bottom, the underlayer of this skirt, and have it be just a completely separate skirt. That is actually how the Barbie dress is, because while I was away at Disney, I did actually get the Barbie. So I bought the 1994 Holiday Barbie from eBay for about like 20 or so bucks, and she arrived while I was gone. So now I can see how everything was made on the Barbie and how I can translate that to me. So for one thing, I have realized that I probably need to use the lighter colored wig that I bought. I was honestly hoping that one of the darker blonde wigs that I bought for this would work just as well, but her hair is so light and bright that I think I might have to go with this one. I love this wig. I'll put a link to this wig down in the description below. I absolutely love it. It is like the softest thing, and it is so long. It's gonna tease up amazingly, but it is really light on me. Like, it's gonna look weird. It's kind of like the Elsa wig looks weird on me. So I had another option, both one that I had already owned and then also another one that I purchased as a potential for this, but both of them are very much like a dirty honey blonde, which looks a lot better on me but looks nothing like the Barbie. So let me show you what the Barbie looks like and how oddly her dress is actually put together in Barbie scale. So I was trying to figure out the best way to shoot this, and I realized it's probably just by holding her up anyway. And naturally, I did purchase a brand new in-box one and then decided to immediately decrease her value by taking her out of the box. But how else could I see what's going on? Also, I thought it'd be pretty cute if I bring her to the con with me so that I have my mini Barbie with me and my actual dress. So anyway, this dress is weird. Like I mentioned, the front panel goes all the way down to here, whereas the skirt seam hits at her natural waist right in here. So you can see that waist seam versus the seam here in the front. It is a princess seamed bodice, so it just goes right over her bust point. This one, okay, so this was kind of a weird thing that I noticed. This Barbie has some age issues, even though she's never been taken out of the box. One of the things I've already cleaned up, and that was that I believe she may have had clear plastic straps originally, or some sort of plastic or rubber or something that actually disintegrated on her shoulders. So I wound up cleaning up her shoulders, but there were two strips going right over like straps, and I kind of assumed that they were the straps of the bodice, because otherwise there are no straps to this bodice. It's just this big poofy part right here. There's no actual straps. So I think that those were in there. I am planning to probably just use straps as part of the bodice so that it's more integrated and the sleeves have something to set into, because her sleeves are just kind of floating and that would just wind up falling off my shoulder because, you know, actual gravity and movement and stuff. So that's the first bit with the bodice. On her, the back side is all one piece. Obviously that's not going to work for me. So I'm going to have to put in some darts or maybe some seaming or both. I mean, there's definitely going to be a side seam. There's probably going to be seaming in the back as well. Her back is done up with snaps. You can see this is another issue with the age. I don't know what happened to make those yellow lines on there, but it was like wear points of her being in the box, like from the twist ties or something. But hers has snap closures. I'm planning on doing a zipper. Naturally, I have not bought said zipper yet, so I need to do that this weekend because I always forget to buy the zipper. And then the skirt on hers, the overskirt, it's actually each half is one big piece. And we've already discussed mine is made up of multiple pieces. But the weird part comes in with the structure of the skirt. So her skirt, this is not actually lame. This is like, it feels almost sticky, like one of those like cosplay fabrics you'd get from Joann's, the ones that are like labeled cosplay and they just feel kind of sticky and wrong. That's what this feels like. And it is structured, I believe, with some other underlayer that is the yellow layer. I'm not sure if that's actually a separate layer or just the back of the sticky fabric. And then also there is tulle netting in there, stiff netting, that helps to structure that skirt. But you'll notice when I lifted this up, the other weird part is that her underskirt is actually just fine tulle in the back. Sorry, Barbie, we're exposing you a little here. So it has the fancy fabric in the front, and then it just goes to fine tulle in the back. Now, if I do mine as a separate underskirt, I'm not going to use tulle because that's kind of weird. I would probably just use something very simple, maybe like more of the taffeta, because that would just be like the plain white taffeta, and I think that'd work just fine. So her sleeves are leg of mutton style sleeves, but again, they have nothing to be set into on here. Because I'm gonna do a strap, I can set mine into the strap. Hers are weirdly have the seam on the outside of the arm. I don't know why. I'm probably not gonna do that because I think that's really weird. And but they're basic sleeves overall. They're just a lot bigger at the head than they are down to the arm where they get tight. One thing that I just noticed on hers is that this fancy part right here is actually set on a yoke. It's gathered into a yoke that is it's actually more of like a mesh netting on her waist, probably just to make her waist area a little slimmer. I didn't do that. You've already seen what I've done there. It's just gonna go right into the waist. And then the skirt and shoulders are trimmed with that faux fur. I think that my faux fur will work pretty okay for that as long as I have enough. Hopefully I have enough, but I think that my texture will be all right. And hers is just serged on one edge and then serged to the skirt, and then it's just like flipped up so that you just kind of have a roll. And that's how it is on the shoulders. Actually, the shoulders, you can honestly see the serging right here, which is kind of weird, but I mean, I'm gonna make mine a little neater than that. I don't know exactly how yet. Now her bodice is decorated with sequins going up and down the front, even acting as the buttons. Those are sequins. I'm not positive what I'm going to be able to do for that. I'm hoping to find some sort of a trim, maybe like a really shiny metallic sequin-like trim at Joann's that I can use for that, and then also for around the sleeve cuffs. And then she's got these cute holly berry things going on here, and I'm hoping I can find something maybe in the floral department to put together for that. I'm not sure how to do her headband, or honestly, well, her earrings I can probably just do large beaded earrings, but the headband, it's this twisted beaded thing that is so pretty, and I want to replicate it somehow, but I don't know how yet, and that will probably wind up being like the day before the con because I'm running out of time. And then I also love that her hairstyle has this lovely twist crown braid thing going on, so I'll definitely be putting that into the wig, and then it's just kind of wavy on the sides. And Dora wants my attention and probably needs to be toweled off, so this sounds like a perfect time to stop describing Barbie, go towel off Dora, and then start on my bodice patterning. So for the bodice, I was trying to figure out what pattern to start with, and honestly it's kind of similar to the one that I used for Gunny Sacks Ween, except that with that bodice, the princess seams curve up and then just stop. They don't curve up and go out. And in this case, I really want them to curve up and go out and have the straps actually come from the centerpiece. So I have one other pattern that I have used before, but I don't remember on what, and that is McCall's 7083. My pattern pieces already have alterations to them, though really that is like a length alteration. I don't see any other alterations on here, so it's because I don't know what I used it for and because I don't know exactly how it's altered, I am probably gonna have to do this from scratch. But I think that by lowering the neckline on this bodice, maybe narrowing the straps a bit, that this will give me the shape I want. Plus, of course, extending that center front to go down below the waist as well. So Dora wants more attention. Oh good, maybe we're done. And I am going to cut out a mock-up of that pattern. So I have my mock-up on. I probably stupidly did this in black fabric, so you can't see anything. I can barely see anything, but there are some major fit issues. Now again, this was just the bodice that I had like previously altered but didn't give any other notes to. And I did cut down the neckline lower, both in front and back, but didn't make any other changes other than, of course, lengthening this centerpiece since it is very weird. So the biggest fit issues reside bust up in the front, and then also the back is like humongous. Where there should be a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I think I have a 2+ inch seam allowance. Like, it's a lot. I'm not really sure how that happened, but I think it's mostly that the center back panel is super, super wide, because I think I'm feeling the side back seams and they're just about where they should be. So that means that it's all the center back panel that's just too wide. And likewise in the center front right here, the center front panel is also too wide here at the waist. And then the boobs are just doing something weird and pointy going off this way. The one thing that is really nice about this pattern is that it is one of those that has various cup sizes. So this is actually a D cup, which is what I wear, and the pattern already has it, so I don't have to worry about that, but obviously it's not right. So I'm gonna go put this on inside out, try to fix all these issues. The neckline is also totally not deep enough. I need a way deeper V, so I have to figure all that out too. I will come back when I have figured some of that out. So I actually think hopefully that I found a relatively easy fix for this. I started to undo the bust seams right here, and I think that I probably will need to do at least some smoothing right at the apex because it's just weirdly pointy. But the biggest thing was that it was way off to the sides of my bust point, and I realized that if the waist is too big, it's too big up here, and these are way off to the sides of my bust point. Why don't we just take it out from the center? So that's what I'm gonna do. I've just pinned this. I haven't checked to see that it's actually centered right now, but I've pinned a little fin out right here. I'm now going to take it off and hope that I pinned out the same amount everywhere and sew that shut. I'm a little tempted actually to like not sew it shut and keep it as the seam so that I can fit it and have a better, easier way of fitting the back. I might do that because that way I could just open this up and fit everything that way, and then as long as I keep it straight, I can just cut that to be the center front on the fold. So I think that is my new plan. And the neckline, I've kind of drawn out the wider bit here. I still feel like on her it's so wide, and I don't know if that's because those straps have disintegrated or if it's just that I can't really do super wide neck stuff because I have narrow shoulders, because I've had this problem before in like other historical stuff too, that I just like, if I go a little bit off, it's off the shoulder because I think it's because I have really narrow shoulders. So yeah, I'm gonna make these tweaks and see where that takes me. So I've got it pretty close to perfect now. I cut down the neckline pretty significantly. Right now the back is seamed up. The front has a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but it is flat all the way down, like it's a consistent 1/2 inch. I also cut off some of the length down here. It was just too long, and honestly I think the curve may be too steep, but I'm gonna leave it for now. My waist is also a little low on here, so I just went around and marked my actual waist on here, and I'm going to cut it with just seam allowance past that. And the only other things that I have going on right now is I have pinched out just a little bit of extra right here because that was helping this neckline to stay even, to pinch that out just a little right there. I did already curve this out so that it's a curve, not a point, so yay. And then the back, the neck needs to come in a little bit more. I have it pinned, and I think I'm also going to bring the back neckline down just a skosh so that it's like even all the way across. Right now, because I've pinned the top, it is dipping just a little, and I wanted it more flat across. Her neckline is way, way lower than this, but I don't know that I feel comfortable going much lower. If I do, I will do that in the actual. I will cut the actual to this and then see if I decide to take it lower, because yeah, hers is like way lower and that is just really low for me. Also, the back on hers is super low, and I just don't think that I want that either. Like, I'm just not comfortable enough showing that much. So yeah, but everything else, it's fitting really, really well now, so I'm excited where this is, and I'm gonna make these few tweaks to the mock-up, but honestly, I don't think I even have to try this back on again. I think I am ready to go ahead and cut out the actual bodice. The actual bodice, my plan is, I hope this will work, my plan is with this skirt, you know, I flatlined it with poly taffeta. I really don't want to line a bodice with polyester. So my plan for the bodice is to flatline the lame with just cotton twill. I think that that will work. I am obviously wearing a corset under this, so I don't need the super structure that like canvas or something like that would do. I think that twill should be just fine. I mean, this right now is like, I think this is cotton, quilting cotton. This was an old dress that I had cut up because I made it. in like 2006 and it's atrocious. So I cut it up a long time ago and this was all I had left. So anyway, I'm just gonna do these tweaks and start cutting out the actual, and I will show you the actual in a little bit. The very shiny bodice is now assembled. And as you can see, I've pinned on some trim that I picked up at Joann's today, but I kind of hate it like a lot. This was just a gold sequin. It's actually like elasticy trim. I do not think it looks good. I'm not sure if that's also what's making me hate the buttons or it's just the fact that they're too small. Honestly, they should be round too, but they didn't have anything at Joann's that was like a shiny large red button at all. And then this trim was one of like maybe 2 options and the other one was super, super narrow. I don't know that it would have been any better. I'm trying to, of course, scale up the trim of Barbie, which would be super huge, and obviously that would not work, but I'm not liking this look. So anyway, I'm putting this on there just to like think on it for a bit while I start the sleeves. So let me show you where I'm at with the sleeves. So this is sleeve mock-up number 1. This is actually the Gunny Saxoline sleeve pattern, and then I've just narrowed it out. So like the inside of this, you can see this huge flap of fabric that was part of the Gunny Saxoline one, but I knew that I needed a tighter fitted sleeve down at the bottom. However, this is just not giving me the volume that I want up at the top. Now, I think I already mentioned this, but on Barbie, she does have a seam on the exterior. I'm honestly trying to avoid that because it's weird and I've never seen a sleeve like that before. I don't know why they did it that way. So I'm still trying to keep the sleeve seam up here in the underside like normal sleeves. But this one is just, it's too, like there's just not enough going on here. Whereas with her sleeve, you can see that there's actually like almost double her arm width up here in the sleeve. So I decided to make a bigger sleeve. But I didn't want to just keep cutting out mock-ups. So I decided to actually cut it out of organdy. What my plan is to have the sleeve actually be 3 layers. Originally, I was thinking I was just going to do the lame with cotton organdy on the inside, but this organdy is that super crappy stuff that I used for the 1830s plaid dress way back in the spring, and I just still have more of it left and I don't have other organdy. So this organdy is sheer. I mean, I think you can see how sheer it is. And when you put it together with the lame, they're still sheer. So I'm going to actually line it with some Supima cotton. I think it's Supima cotton. It might be cotton sateen that I have in my stash. And it'll be a triple layer sleeve. And that way the inside will also be nice and soft instead of this stiff stuff. But I can also avoid having my sleeve lined with polyester because although lame is like, I think made out of polyester, it's super open weave, hence the sheerness, so it shouldn't be too over warm, but lining it with taffeta would be atrocious. So I think that this is overkill though. I think this is a lot bigger than I had wanted it to be, and all the way down. Basically what I did was I took this sleeve and I just pivoted it so that it would wind up being 4 inches wider on each side, so 8 inches total, wider up at the top in the center, and then it would be the same down here, but of course that does widen out through here as well, and it's just not what I want. So maybe I do have to do a seam on the exterior. I think I'm going to try maybe doing 2 seams, see what happens with that, because if I do another seam here, then I can narrow it out through this part and then widen it up here, but not to this extent, because I think this is just way too puffy. Like her sleeve isn't puffy, it's just wide somehow. I don't know. I've got to figure this out and I will show you what I figure out. So I've got my seams now on the inside and the outside, which means that I've got this pretty nicely fitted lower sleeve, great elbow movement, and a big old poof. It's basically an 1890s sleeve and also a 1990 sleeve because this is 1994. So yeah, I'm really happy with the shape of this. I'm hoping it's not still too much poof, but if it is, I can always take it in more on this seam here. I'm gonna now use this though to cut out all of the other layers for both sleeves, and there's a bit that I will have to cut off on here because let me just show you what I wound up taking in. It is this fin right here. So I wound up tapering bring it in quite a bit around the elbow, and then up here it's just a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Same with down here at the bottom, I went down to a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but around here at the elbow and the lower arm here, it tapered in quite a bit and then tapered out back to that poof. So again, I'm quite happy with it. I'm going to cut off the excess, undo these seams, and use this now as my pattern for the other pieces. And just like that, sleeves are in. And I feel like an 80s princess. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, I know this is 1994, and I know that my sleeves are a little bit big for Barbie's sleeves, but like not by much. But oh my gosh, the level of gold lame without even having the skirt on is a lot. The one thing that I kind of wish I had done differently, but not enough to actually change it, is that I wish that I had lined the sleeves as opposed to flatlined all 3 layers together. And I say that because the inside seam right in here, really just about this portion of the arm, the lame inside is itchy, pokey, scratchy, something like that. It's definitely not the most pleasant thing. So hopefully I will learn to ignore that, because the way that I built these sleeves is that I flatlined all 3 layers together. So there is the lame, the cotton organdy, and then the cotton sateen all together. But of course that means the exposed seam inside is lame, because this is just the standard sort of flat seam. If it really bothers me, I might cover it over with something. I did that on my strawberry dress after the fact. The tulle on the inside of the sleeve where like the cuff was, I think, or maybe it was where the armpit was, one of those, I actually wound up hand sewing Minky over the spot where it was bothering me, and it turned it super, super comfortable. So if this is that bothersome and if I have time for that, I may do something similar and just add a little strip of Minky like right here. It's the only part that is bothering me, and I don't know if it's because the inner part of my elbow area is more sensitive, or if that is because it's one of the tighter parts of the sleeve. Like, I mean, I don't even feel it on the outside seam. So yeah, I don't know why. It's really just, it's from like about there to there that it is a little bit bothersome. So anyway, it's fitting as well as I can tell perfectly. I mean, I have one pin at top, one pin at bottom, so I can't tell the whole thing, but the top and the bottom seem to be fitting. So I'm hoping that means that the rest will fit. I won't know until I actually put the zipper in though, because I just can't fit a back closing dress by myself. But everything else I feel like is looking pretty darn good here. So I think I am ready to put the skirts on. Like, length seems really good. I'll have to double check just how much seam allowance I have in this pinch out point, because I feel, just from feel, like this might be more like 3/4 of an inch as opposed to a 1/2 an inch. So I'll probably give a little mark there with a friction pen, and that way I'll know where that pin is sitting right now when I take it off. That way if I need to take any additional off, I can. But everything else is doing well. The only other one thing that's kind of bothering me is that my bra straps are showing just a little bit. Like, my plan was to wear the corset with the bra underneath, and my bra straps are winding up showing. So I don't feel like the sleeves, the straps need to sit any further on my shoulders. Like, I want them this wide. I want them as wide as I can, but as I mentioned, I have narrow shoulders. So my bra straps like to sit in the divots of my shoulders right here. So yeah, anyway though, I am happy with what's going on. What I might do to try to solve that a little is maybe just make this seam slightly pinched out right here before I bind it, because that is my next step before I actually attach it to the skirts and do the zipper. While it's still easy to manage, I want to bind the neckline and the sleeve ends. I'm just going to do a really simple bind where I sew the right sides by machine and then sew the inside by hand. So I'm going to tackle that right now, and then I will attach the skirt. So I think the next thing that you are going to see, and the last thing for this vlog, hopefully I get it done tonight, will be to attach the skirts, and I'll end there and then put all of the decorating onto next week's. So I'm gonna get to that, work really hard. We'll see where I get to tonight. So I seem to be incapable of zipping this up on my own. I have it zipped up to there right now, but the zipper is in because the bodice is connected to the skirt. It's definitely like funky, and I'm kind of hoping that this little wrinkle here goes away. I think that is just like the curve. I'm obviously, maybe not obviously, but I'm not wearing the underskirt or the hoops or petticoats or anything like that right now. So I am not sure what it will look like when all of that's on, but it's late and I don't feel like putting all of that on right now because at some point I do have to figure out how to actually attach the front underskirt thing to this. And I'm honestly thinking that it might be easier just to make a fake back of that skirt and set it on its own waistband than attempt to figure out how to make it into the same skirt without any stitches showing through the top layer. So I'm pretty sure that that's what I'm gonna do, that that's gonna be its own separate skirt, not with the tulle netting back like Barbie has, because that's just weird, but with probably just plain white taffeta on the underneath in the back. So that is probably what I will be doing next, but everything else will be in the next video. So this is where I wanted to get to today, so I'm happy where I am, and hopefully the rest of this will go pretty smoothly. I also think that maybe once I put the hook at the top of the back that will help me be able to zip it up on my own. But otherwise I can always have a friend help me, you know, before the con. That'll be fine. It does fit, it just, I just can't reach it. It's so close. Not gonna happen. So anyway, yeah, I'm happy with where this giant gold monstrosity is, and I'm really excited to add the fur more than anything else, the fake fur more than anything else, just because I feel like that's going to really be a game changer on just how much gold this is and really help it to look like the Barbie dress. So I think that the first thing I'm going to do for next week's video is to make the back of the underskirt, and then I'm going to start on the fur trim and then do the other trimmings. And also in that video will be things like making the earrings, the headband, and styling the wig, because, you know, gotta do something with this little lady right here. So I have a lot to do in 6 days, and you will see all of that panic sewing in the next video. So do make sure that you're subscribed so that you know when that video is released. But thank you so much for joining me today with this video, with this exciting, fun new project. I really am having a lot of fun with this. If you liked this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs out on Tuesdays and other costuming content out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi accounts down in the description box below. I'd also like to take this moment to thank all of my absolutely wonderful patrons, especially the patrons at the Romantic, Victorian, and Edwardian level tiers, and they are Sharon, Julie, Emily, Audra, Mirage, Carlin, Maria, Tiffany, Sarah, Cherries, Rhonda, Denise, Elizabeth W, Elizabeth E, Bobby, Vivian, and Jean. Thank you all so much. I really couldn't do it without you. If any of you are interested in joining my Patreon, again, that link is down in the description below. And again, thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!